This is a breaking news alert from 24-Hour News 8.
Breaking news now at 11. A Michigan State police trooper gunned down, shot in the head during a traffic stop. 2 suspects then arrested during a gunfight.
This is all happening to our north in Mason County. The trooper was shot at 6:20 during a traffic stop near Free Soil. About 2 hours later, police arrested 2 suspects in Manistee County. There was an exchange of gunfire there.
We have crews working both scenes. We want to start, though, with 24-Hour News 8's Tom Hillen live in Mason County, where that trooper was shot tonight. Tom?
Brian and Susan, want to start by letting you know that that trooper is in critical condition. He was airlifted from the scene here to a hospital. I want to show you, step out of the way here, we do still have an active scene going on here in northern Mason County. The traffic stop happened down there where you can see those lights still flashing. We are several hours into this investigation, and Michigan State Police tell me they expect this to go well into the night. After that Michigan State police officer was shot in the head, the suspect then took off, leaving the trooper sitting in the road wounded for about 4 minutes.
A passerby came upon him and called the police, which got us heading in the right direction.
MSP really thanking that passerby, and it was several hours later that those 2 suspects were arrested in a town called Dublin. It's not too far from where we are. What we have been able to learn about the trooper is that he is a seasoned veteran with Michigan State Police, and although we don't know the reason the car was initially pulled over, we do know that the trooper radioed it in as a normal traffic stop at that time. Right now, police are releasing very little information about the suspects, saying that it is very early on in their investigation. The lieutenant said that this is a very trying time for everyone involved, especially for the law enforcement community, and he is asking for everyone to keep the trooper and his families in their prayers. So again, a Michigan State police trooper in critical condition tonight after being shot in the head here in northern Mason County, and those 2 suspects are in custody at this time. Brian and Susan.
Okay, Tom, thank you. You know, we listened to that news conference earlier in the 10 o'clock live, and they really seem to be so early in the investigation that there's no information regarding why something like this happened.
Exactly. They don't know exactly why it happened. Obviously, they made that traffic stop, and all things pointed to routine. And when the officer got up to that car, things quickly changed. But there's very little information coming out at this time as to why that suspect would have entered into gunfire with that police officer. Obviously, we don't know what the criminal background of this person is at this time either. So there are a lot of questions that remain as to why exactly this happened. And those are questions that we will be asking and hope to get more information later tonight or early tomorrow morning. Obviously, as soon as we get anything, we'll pass it along. It'll also be updated on woodtv.com as well.
Okay, and also those 2 suspects arrested in Dublin at a store, I understand there?
Yes, that's what we're being told, is they were arrested at a store in Dublin. Police got information that they were going to be in that area. They were able to use that information to track those suspects down and eventually make the arrest there.
Tom Hillen reporting live for us tonight. A lot of details that we're awaiting answers on. Tom, thank you for the very latest.
24-Hour News 8's Leon Hendricks is about 20 miles away from Tom in Manistee County, where this all came to an end. And Leon joins us live over the phone. What are you seeing there, Leon?
Well, also an active investigation here. The state police have this area taped off. The place where this came to end, it's actually a store and gas station. The vehicle that these suspects were in is an apparent stolen vehicle. These suspects moved very quickly. They drove away from the scene where the officer was shot in the truck, ended up in a white car that was stolen. That vehicle is actually parked here at this store, and I don't know if you can see some of the pictures we've sent in from the scene, but I can tell you that the vehicle almost seems it's parked at the gas pump, almost as if it was going to pump gas there. We don't know if that was happening or if suspects were in the vehicle when all this went down. There's a state police cruiser, presumably the cruiser of the arresting officer, right nearby, and they've got the evidence markers out. A clear indication that they're marking probably shell casings out here. That there was some sort of a shootout. Our understanding is that one of the suspects was injured here. So 2 people were arrested at this scene. Still a very active situation here. I'm watching police as they seem to be going to some of the neighbors here. But these folks were clearly on the move. This is a very remote area, quite a ways away from where all this started at Tom's scene there, actually in Manistee County.
A couple of hours later, we encountered that suspect in Dublin. There was a gunfight there as well. Suspect was shot and taken to the hospital as well, and he is in custody.
Now, we do know that a lot of investigators from the Michigan State Police from other areas have been brought in. We're not exactly sure what post the victim officer was from, but obviously this is going to be a very emotional and trying time for those who worked immediately close to that officer. We have been able to get in touch with some of the officers' loved ones. Of course, we're being very careful as far as what we report on that, but we do know that the officer is a veteran officer, a very well-loved officer. He is known for loving animals and having quite a sense of humor, we're told. So a lot of people sending out a lot of prayers, and that's what his colleagues asked today. Back to you.
Leon Hendricks, thank you for that. We'll continue to track this story.
Investigation is being run by the state police, and I haven't gotten any feedback from them as to a motive for this.
He didn't own a gun, right?
He didn't own any weapons.
I mean, do you have any idea why he would allegedly shoot a trooper?
Remembering a fallen trooper. This is 24-Hour News 8.
Right now at 6 o'clock, there are still questions about why a young man and his pregnant wife would have allegedly turned a gun on a state trooper during what appeared to be a normal traffic stop.
Our team is working this story for you tonight. You will hear from the father of one of the suspects. He's a retired cop, and he's still trying to figure out why his son might have done this. We also tracked down the owner of a vehicle allegedly stolen last night by the suspects. He saw the two just moments after the shooting. And we're hearing from a friend of Trooper Paul Butterfield who was with him last night during his final moments.
This all started nearly 24 hours ago when Trooper Paul Butterfield pulled over a pickup truck northeast of Ludington. During the stop, he was shot in the head. Police rushed to the scene trying to track down the suspects. 2 hours later, the suspects, a husband and wife, were arrested at a gas station 20 miles away.
Our team coverage begins tonight with 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker, who is just learning some new information about the alleged gunman. Ken?
Yeah, Brian and Sue, the suspect's father does not want to believe that his son could have done this, but he wants the trooper's family to know that he is hurting for them.
Well, our family and our whole family, our hearts and our prayers go out to the trooper, his family, and all the other troopers. I'm at a loss for words.
Eric Nice's father says he can't understand what happened, that he wants a chance to talk to his son, who's only 19.
As a father, there's all kind of questions, and I think in the next couple of days, most of them will be answered. But yes, it's possible something unforeseen could have happened. Eric was at the scene, yes, but whether he pulled the trigger or not, I can't say.
But his son was at Munson Medical Center in Traverse City with a bullet wound to the knee from a shootout with police.
I haven't talked to my son, you know, and I understand they won't let me, but I'd like him to answer a few of my questions. That's all.
He says his son borrowed his pickup truck yesterday and was headed to Ludington with his wife for a doctor's appointment. That, he says, is when the troopers stopped him. He wonders if it was because the truck had a loud muffler. He says he has no idea why his son would have shot at the trooper. Says he didn't even know that his son had a gun. The suspect's father says he's a former police officer in Calumet City and that his son had run-ins with the law. Your son would have respect for police, right? I mean, as someone who grew up...
You'd think so, yes. But this is not a surprise. This is a shock.
Nyes was only 14 when he was charged with home invasion. Then it was impaired driving last fall. Earlier this year, he was busted for carrying a switchblade that, according to state police, got him a year in jail. Then he got 93 days for a domestic violence. Nyes and his wife, Sarah, married about 1.5 years ago, and his father says that she was 6 months pregnant.
This is the worst day of my life.
Yeah. Now, today we also learned that the suspect's uncle took out a personal protection order against him, saying that he had assaulted him and had access to weapons. Also, we just spoke with the father again by phone, who confirmed that a .357 Magnum had been taken from his home sometime over the last year. Says he did not know it was missing until after this incident. He says police will not tell him if it was the gun that was used in this crime. Live in Ludington, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
It all ended at this Manistee County gas station where Eric Nyes was shot and his wife was arrested. But tonight we're piecing together what happened in the moments before and after Trooper Butterfield was gunned down on a rural road miles away. 24-hour News 8's Leon Hendricks is live in Ludington tonight, laying out the timeline and talking with the man who saw the suspects moments after the shooting. Leon?
That's right. He has a lot to say. We'll get to him in just a moment. We want to tell you why we're here at the Mason County Courthouse. That's because this is the next step in the process for these suspects. They will be brought here to face those charges, though the prosecutor still working to decide what those charges will be. Still waiting for some official reports from the police. Still lots of questions, though, as to what really happened and why. For this man, it was a bizarre turn of events, from selling his car to ending up as part of a state police trooper's murder investigation. Timothy Schultz is one of the only known people to have had contact with the suspects after police claim one of them shot Trooper Paul Butterfield to death.
I'm thankful for, that there wasn't no conflict or anything here.
Here's how yesterday's tragic events played out as we understand them. At around 6:20, Trooper Butterfield stopped the suspect's 1988 pickup here. It's not clear why, but ultimately police say someone in that truck shot and fatally wounded the trooper. He laid along the highway for some 4 minutes until a driver saw him there. The Mason County Sheriff among those first on the scene.
I knew it was bad because the sergeant and I had made eye contact, and I knew by looking at the seasoned veteran that this wasn't good.
That's when the suspects traveled here to steal their next getaway car, a car that was for sale. Schultz tells us that suspects Eric Nyes and his wife Sarah had been there earlier in the day to test drive that car. They planned to buy it. When they showed up the second time after the shooting, Schultz says they asked to look at the car again. Still nothing out of sorts.
He seemed all right. He didn't seem like he wasn't in a panic.
Then he says they unexpectedly drove off. Schultz says he thought it was weird but did not find it suspicious. Now he's thankful he didn't confront the pair. He later called police after learning that the trooper was shot, putting authorities hot on the trail of their suspects, finally arresting them here at a gas station miles away and in another county. Suspect Eric Nyes was shot in the process. A few hours later, Trooper Butterfield was declared dead, and now it's the process of grieving and healing. Flowers placed on the trooper's cars at the Hart Post where Butterfield worked out of. Some more public shows of support, others a small flower arrangement here, more private, assuring those who remain to protect us all.
Goodness will prevail out of this.
So as far as what the next step will look like, there is some confusion, a couple of caveats because of the situation surrounding this case. One, the suspect, the male suspect, we know that he is still in the hospital, so not sure if he'll be able to actually make a court appearance here, though we have heard of arraignments actually happening at the hospital bed. The other, the investigation is still being compiled. The prosecutor's got to look through a lot of paperwork before deciding what charges he'll officially file. Reporting live in Mason County, Leon Hendricks, 24-hour News 8.
We're also learning that several officers wound up on the road alongside Trooper Butterfield just moments after a driver found him down.
Those officers were there as the trooper fought for his life for more than an hour as emergency crews tried to keep him alive.
24-hour News 8's Marley Ginter joins us now with how one of them sat by his side praying.
Yes, he did. Brian and Sue, Mason County Sheriff Kim Cole was with Trooper Butterfield moments after he'd been shot. In fact, he was there right when the ambulance was getting there, saw his friend, and started hanging on to hope.
I prayed for the best, but I knew that it was a serious injury.
Mason County Sheriff Kim Cole spoke with a steady voice and a broken heart. He sat last night not just with a colleague, but a close friend as paramedics tried to save Trooper Butterfield's life.
I stayed there with him as long as I could, and then when AeroMed touched down, I stepped aside and let them get going with him.
Butterfield joined MSP in 1999. He'd served at the Manistee Post, but had been working out of the Hart Post for the past 2 years.
Paul took every call that I went with him on as a personal call. It wasn't like it was his job.
But there was much more than the uniform. The 43-year-old had recently gotten engaged. Friends tell us he loved his pets, had a great sense of humor, known to them as Butterbean. He still kept in touch with his high school track track coach at Bridgeport, a school near Saginaw where we're told he still holds multiple records.
You don't get Paul Butterfields very often as runners for your team. He just loved to run, and he was really good at it.
He was there when my kids graduated and was at my house for the open houses when my kids graduated. And you know, it's just, it's tough.
A hard day for so many. Trooper Butterfield had a family history dedicated to protecting the community. His father also served as a state trooper. Brian.
Thank you, Marley. Funeral plans are still being arranged for Trooper Butterfield. However, we are learning of a candlelight vigil happening Saturday night. That'll be held at Waterfront Park in Ludington starting at 7.
Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll take a closer look at just how dangerous traffic stops are for police officers every time they pull a car over. New tonight, we are hearing from the uncle of the suspect in the shooting death of a state trooper in Mason County. The suspect's uncle had a personal protection order against him, saying that he feared for his life. State Police Trooper Paul Butterfield was shot during a traffic stop northeast of Ludington last night. The suspects, a husband and his young pregnant wife, were arrested just 2 hours later in Manistee County. Police say they don't know why they would have shot the trooper. We have confirmed that the suspect's father, a retired police officer, is missing a handgun from his home, although police have not told us what type of weapon was used to kill the trooper. Tonight, we do have team coverage for you. Danny Carlson went to Trooper Butterfield's hometown to talk with those who know him. We start with Tom Hillen, though. He spoke with suspect Eric Nice's uncle about why he took out that personal protection order.
Nice's uncle said that Eric lived with him for a number of months earlier this year, and during that time period there was an altercation in which Eric allegedly broke his finger and further threatened him, leading his uncle to take out that personal protection order.
He's had some brushes with the law, but he's turning his life around. And I just don't understand really what happened.
Despite having his own physical encounter with his nephew, Matt Nice says he couldn't believe it when he found out it was his nephew, Eric, that was involved in the shooting death of Trooper Paul Butterfield.
Did you ever think he was capable of doing something like this?
I know Eric had an anger management problem, but not to this point.
That alleged anger problem spelled out in a PPO taken out by Nice against his nephew. In a written statement, Nye said Eric, quote, assaulted me and has threatened to do more bodily harm in the future. He goes on to say, quote, he has access to several guns and I am afraid for my life.
There's one incident, you know, it was not like a normal thing that happened. I don't really foresee him as being a very violent person all the time, you know. He has his problems.
Still, Nye says he is shocked.
For someone from family to do something like that, it's unbelievable.
A feeling echoed by Eric's father as well.
This is not a surprise, this is a shock.
Nice's uncle said that he, along with the rest of his family, would like to extend their deepest condolences to Trooper Butterfield's family. As for Nice, we're hearing he remains in a hospital tonight after being shot in the leg during a shootout with police in Dublin last night. We are also hearing that he and his wife could be arraigned on charges as early as tomorrow. If that does happen, we will be there and bring you complete coverage. In Baldwin tonight, Tom Hillen, 24-Hour News 8.
Butterfield had been a trooper for 14 years and was recently engaged to be married.
Tonight, 24-Hour News 8's Danny Carlson went to Saginaw County, where he grew up, to talk with people about the kind of man he was.
Although Trooper Paul Butterfield hasn't lived on the east side of the state for several years now, people that we spoke to say they've never forgotten the driven, caring young man, saying the impression that he's left on their lives is everlasting.
Paul reached out and helped people. And so for him to die that way was tragic.
Still in shock over the news that his friend was murdered, high school classmate Maurice Hopgood told us tonight that Paul Butterfield was just the kind of guy people in Bridgeport Township looked up to.
When I think about Paul, the first word comes respect. He had respect for everyone, the athletes, those that were not athletes. He had respect for the teachers, the peers, as well as the community.
And seeing the flags at half-staff all throughout the community shows just what a lasting impact the 43-year-old trooper left in his hometown.
Paul was the one that kind of drew everybody together in his own way. You know, he wasn't loud, but he was subtle.
Tonight, our Target 8 investigators are uncovering some new information about the man suspected of shooting and killing Trooper Paul Butterfield in Mason County Monday night.
On the surface, it appears Eric Nyes should have been in jail the night of the shooting. State police records show that he got a year behind bars in March, 6 months ago, for carrying a switchblade. So, why was he still on the street?
His wife, Sarah, who is 6 months pregnant, was in a courtroom this afternoon to face charges of being an accessory to her husband after the shooting. She was very emotional in court, at times crying.
We have team coverage on both new developments tonight, starting with Target 8 investigator Ken Kolker, who is trying to get answers about why Eric Nyes was not in jail when the shooting happened. Ken?
Now, it's in this jail behind me in Lake County that you would have thought Eric Nyes already should have been locked up instead of being free to allegedly kill the state trooper. But the state police records that you can find online that show he got a year in jail back in March don't always fit with reality.
On the surface, it looks like he should have been in jail. I can't make further comments on that at this time.
Records at the Lake County Courthouse help tell the story. That the judge suspended most of Nyes' jail time, which meant he did not have to serve it, a practice that is not uncommon. Nyes has been in front of Judge Mark Wickens 4 times for 5 crimes since 2008. Burglary when he was 14, impaired driving last year. Just this past March, he got a year for carrying a switchblade and 90 days on a traffic offense, but served just 3 days. 8 days after that sentencing, Nyes assaulted his uncle in a fight over ice cream sandwiches. For that, he got 93 days in jail, and the judge suspended all of that jail time. All told, he got 1,006 days of jail time, but served just 34 days, the rest suspended. The judge refused to talk to us. The Lake County prosecutor would not discuss specifics of the prior cases.
You had said earlier that this was a senseless crime. I mean, there was no way of predicting this based on his past. Could you have seen that?
It was a senseless crime, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Now, off camera, the prosecutor says there was nothing in the suspect's background that would have pointed to anything like this. Live in Baldwin, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
Well, the prosecutor made it official today. Murder charges have been authorized against the man accused of shooting and killing Trooper Paul Butterfield. That suspect's wife also remains jailed and accused of trying to help her husband after the fact.
This defendant did count 1, accessory after the fact to a...
Today, formal charges were announced against a young husband and wife expecting a baby. Sarah Nyes made her first appearance in court today in jail orange, visibly emotional and apparently confused.
Do you understand?
Not entirely.
New tonight, 3 days after the shooting death of Michigan State Police Trooper Paul Butterfield, we are hearing for the first time from the suspect's mom.
She says she still wants a chance to talk with her son, but says she does not think his wife had anything to do with it. 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker spoke to her at her home in Lake County tonight, and he joins us live from Studio Control. Ken?
Yeah, Eric Nyes' mother told us the family has tried for years to get her help for her son, who's been in and out of trouble since he was 14.
Yeah, Eric has some problems. This is the baby they lost a year ago last May. This is the one they're expecting. Eric was turning his life around. What happened, I don't know.
Eric Nyes, who was 19, and his 20-year-old wife, Sarah, are 6 months pregnant. Found out she was expecting about the time he got into his last trouble for assaulting his own uncle back in March.
The day he got this, he called me and said, "Mama, you have a grandson."
Now he's accused of shooting Trooper Butterfield during what appeared to be a routine traffic stop on Monday as Nyes drove his father's pickup. His wife is accused of being an accessory after the fact.
They're basically calling him a cop killer.
That's how they foresee him. They have their point of view. I have my point of view. Which I'm not inclined to say at the moment.
She says she believes Sarah had nothing to do with the crime.
I think Sarah was just scared.
Along for the ride, sort of?
Yeah.
You don't think she did anything wrong?
Nye's father told us today that it was Eric's mother who drove the pickup after the shooting, not knowing what had happened. His dad was saying that he called you to come pick up the pickup truck or something when they were getting the car?
Nope.
That didn't happen?
No.
What she wants now is a chance to talk with her son.
I'm trying to grasp it. And I can't.
This is a breaking news alert from 24-Hour News 8.
4 days after he allegedly shot and killed a Michigan State Police trooper, Eric Nys is now officially charged with homicide. 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker just got out of the courthouse in Ludington. He's joining us live tonight with the latest. Ken, what are you finding out?
That hearing ended about 15 minutes ago, and Eric Nys spoke just briefly to the judge, to the magistrate, answering with just yes or no answers. Now, he was arraigned on charges of murdering a police officer, Trooper Paul Butterfield, on Monday in a traffic stop. He's also held on 4 other charges. Now, today, as he appeared on a video link from the Mason County Jail, his family was in the court, his father and his mother. His mother appeared to be crying in the back row. Now, the arraignment had been delayed for several days as Nys underwent surgery for a bullet wound to his leg suffered in a shootout with police after allegedly shooting the trooper. Now, his wife is already being held on a $250,000 bond as an accessory. Today, the judge ordered that Nys be held in jail without bond. Live in Ludington, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
Preparations are underway for Trooper Butterfield's funeral service tomorrow. Visitation starts at 10, but it's open to the public beginning at 10:30. The funeral is at 1 o'clock. Both are at Manistee High School. 24-Hour News 8 will broadcast the service live on WXSP.
We're learning what happened in the moments right after the shooting death of State Police Trooper Paul Butterfield. They're coming from court records obtained after 24-Hour News 8 was forced to go before a judge to get them. Mason County District Court had originally refused to release any of the records, claiming that they were not public. 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker's at the live desk tonight with what they reveal. Ken?
Yeah, Brian, what we're talking about are 2 affidavits. These affidavits, a total of about a dozen pages of testimony by investigators as they stood before a judge to get arrest warrants for Eric Nys and his wife, Sarah. What's new in the documents is what allegedly happened after the shooting. How the couple got rid of the pickup they were driving at the time that Trooper Paul Butterfield was shot and killed, and how Eric Nys' mother allegedly helped after the fact. Eric Nys is accused of shooting the trooper in the head during a traffic stop on September 9th in rural Mason County. His pregnant wife was with him in the pickup. It's still not clear why. The records we obtained gave no indication. Neither do they say why the trooper had stopped them. After the shooting, the couple allegedly picked up another driver, identified as Eric Nys' mother, Tammy Spofford. The 3 then drove in the pickup to another home where the couple allegedly stole a car. Police say that it was the wife who reached out and recruited Nys' mother. Nys' mother is not facing charges in this case. Relatives say Nys' mother wasn't aware of the shooting when she helped with the pickup truck, and Nys' mother, in an interview with 24-Hour News 8, has denied any involvement. What the records we obtained don't include is information about statements made by the suspects to police. The judge sealed that, saying releasing that information might impact the right to a fair trial. Now, the Nyses are expected back in court, Mason County District Court, on Wednesday afternoon to determine whether they should face trial. Live in the newsroom, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
Tracking justice for Trooper Paul Butterfield, the couple tied to his shooting death, both in court for the first time for crimes that happened in Manistee County after the shooting. And today, we're sitting down for the first time with Sarah Nys' mother. 24-Hour News 8's Ken Kolker has this story.
Eric Nys and his wife Sarah appeared today separately for the first time in court, but before that hearing, we spoke to her mother, who says that her daughter plans to testify against him. Are they just trying to squeeze her to make sure she testifies against him, maybe?
There's no squeezing required. No. Absolutely not.
Her daughter, she says, told her that she would testify for the prosecution, whether she was facing charges or not.
I would willingly transport her back and forth.
She says she has visited her daughter in jail every weekend since her arrest. She insists she is a victim and should not be facing charges. She says she has learned since the arrest that he was an abusive husband, once locking her into a room for 2 days.
She was unfortunately drug into the situation. She knew nothing about it. She did not know he had the gun on him, obviously did not know he was going to shoot somebody.
The Nizes were together in a pickup when he allegedly shot and killed a trooper after a traffic stop in Mason County. Today, they were in court for separate hearings. He on crutches after state police shot him during his arrest. She is nearly 7 months pregnant.
It's not like they're a Bonnie and Clyde type of thing, because Sarah would never even dream of anything, let alone nothing remotely like this.
He is facing a total of 8 charges in Mason and Manistee counties, including murder of a police officer. Today, he waived his hearing, so he'll face trial in both. She is facing a total of 3 charges, including auto theft and being an accessory after the fact. Today, her hearing was adjourned for several weeks. Police insist that she had opportunities to leave.
Everyone's asking her, well, why didn't you run? Okay, she's way pregnant.
Scared to death.
Physically ill. She just literally saw him shoot this officer in the head. They're out in the middle of nowhere. She even told her attorney, she goes, well, what am I going to do, run through an open field? What's to stop him from shooting me?
Police also say she pulled the SIM card and battery from her cell phone to keep police from tracking them down.
And she goes, Mom, he made me take it out.
It's not clear yet when they'll go to trial here in Manistee County or in nearby Mason County. In Manistee, Ken Kolker, 24-Hour News 8.
He walked up to the window, started to ask, like, how's it going? And then I heard the gunshot. My husband pulled away, and I looked behind, and I saw the trooper laying in the road and a bunch of blood.
He never had a chance. Trooper Paul Butterfield was shot even before he finished his sentence. Just one of the startling admissions Sarah Nyes made while pleading guilty just hours ago in Mason County.
Her husband is Eric Nyes. He's the one accused of pulling the trigger, gunning Trooper Paul Butterfield down during a traffic stop in September. Another bombshell from Sarah. Eric's mother knew what he did before she helped her son find a getaway car.
And Sarah says the runaway couple stopped at a friend's to get marijuana before police caught up with them in Manistee County. 24-Hour News 8's Leon Hendricks is live with more on this emotional testimony. Leon?
Yes, Sarah's plea came as part of a deal with prosecutors. The prosecutor says that Sarah, in exchange for her plea, will not have charges brought against her in Manistee County, which is where everything ended up when Sarah and Eric Nyes were both captured before being brought to jail. So still a very emotional hearing in court. State police troopers were there, some of them tearful as Sarah described what happened that night. Listen to what she said as the judge questioned her about what happened and her description, really, of just how quick everything transpired.
He walked up to the window, started to ask, like, how's it going? And then I heard the gunshot.
All right, was there a conversation about to take place with your husband and the trooper?
Just the trooper asking how it was going.
And then the shot was immediate?
Yes, before the trooper finished his sentence.
Okay.
The fear and the shock, and I was almost 7 months pregnant, and I didn't know where we were. And I know that I can't run faster than the car. And I know I definitely can't run faster than a bullet.
And that last piece of testimony there was Sarah giving the answer to the question as to why she didn't run away, why she didn't try to go get help following this. Obviously, she's saying there that she was terrified of what might happen to her. So still lots to go with this case. Sarah has to be sentenced. That is expected to happen in December. And then, of course, the criminal trial of Eric Nyes, presuming he does not enter a plea, is also still ahead. So one other question that came out of this hearing after finding out, at least from Sarah's account, that Eric Nyes' mother seemed to know that the trooper had been shot. Will she face charges? I asked the prosecutor about that this evening. He said he wasn't ready to talk about it. He said it really couldn't comment on it, but certainly seemed to think that that is a distinct possibility still in this case. We'll, of course, continue to follow it. Reporting live in Ludington, Leon Hendricks, 24-hour News 8.
Tonight, we are learning that a third person is facing charges in connection with the shooting death of Michigan State Police Trooper Paul Butterfield. The mother of alleged killer Eric Nyes is now facing charges. 24-hour News 8's Ken Kolker spoke to the mom in the days after the shooting, and he's at the live desk with more. Ken?
Yeah, Brian, we learned this afternoon that Nyes' mother, Tammy Spofford, is being charged with auto theft and with being an accessory after the fact in a felony. The charges come about 2 weeks after Eric Nyes' wife, Sarah, pleaded guilty to her role in the murder. During that plea, Sarah Nyes testified about the alleged role that Eric Nyes' mother played. She testified that after the shooting, she and her husband went to his mother's home in nearby Irons. She said her husband told his mother about the shooting. Then all three went in the pickup to steal a car that the Nyes' later used as a getaway vehicle. Now, that's not what Eric Nyes' mother told us when we talked to her days after the shooting. They're basically calling him a cop killer.
They have their point of view. I have my point of view. Which I'm not inclined to say at the moment.
His dad was saying that he called you to come pick up the pickup truck or something when they were getting the car.
Nope.
That didn't happen?
No.
Now, Tammy Spofford is at the Mason County Jail. We're expecting that she'll be arraigned on Tuesday. Live in the newsroom, Ken Kolker, 24-hour News 8.